forward, we saw where Babylon in the Middle Ages came on the stage through the papacy. That was the purpose, Babylon, modern Babylon, was the papacy, and the papacy was defeated by the English-speaking Assyrian nations. Why the Bible calls it Assyria? When we go back to Isaiah, Isaiah showed us that there was a conflict between Israel and Judah, but Israel had solicited the help of Syria to overthrow her sister church, her sister, which is Judah. All right? Israel was in the north and Judah in the south. So Israel joined with a pagan. So there we have a confederation of church and state. So that confederation, God has promised to Ahaz that it will not prosper, because God used Assyria to overthrow that union that came against Judah. However, after a while, after that had taken place, Assyria came in the land, the promised land, and took into captivity the 10 tribes, Israel. Right? He turned around and took them captive. That's where you get now the the Samaritans, because it's the invasion of the Assyrians and the offspring of the Assyrians and the Israelite that became the Samaritans that the Jews hated because they were bastards, according to them. Anyway, the fact of the matter that Assyria showed up there, but there was the sign that God had given to Ahaz to show that after the child was born, but before the child could refuse evil and choose good, this overthrow would have taken place. However, the overthrow taking place and the sign was not in existence. So just as I initially said that if you examine the prophecy, everything has to be fulfilled. We saw there that, yes, the prophecy was fulfilled, but just partially. There was a dilemma, because something was not in existence. And everything that the Lord wrote must come to pass. So, as we read William Miller's method of interpretation, we can apply that now. What you ought to do, you look on it, all the figures fall in line, all the words, no, not all the words, because the Messiah, the Emmanuel, was not born as a sign that was to show that was a sign indicating the overthrowing. But that wasn't there, that was absent. Therefore, we fast forward 700 years later before we get a glimpse of the sign. That was when Christ was born to a woman, Emmanuel, and we therefore would have to look for a sign, exactly as the word says, after the child was born, but before the child could refuse evil and choose good. Now, Christ was born, grew up, refused evil, chose good, and he was in heaven long before the Middle Age confederacy. And that confederacy occurred between the Christian church and a pagan nation when they when they joined together, and eventually we had the church-state confederacy, just as we had in. That's the same as what happened with Israel and Syria happened with the Christian church and the pagans. All right. So we would say now that yes, well, that should have fulfilled the prophecy, because here we have the fulfillment of the confederacy when Emmanuel was born. But remember precisely what the word says. It says after the birth and before. So if Christ was born, yes, it occurs after his birth, but another dilemma. He was able to, it happened after he was able to refuse the evil and choose the good, because he did that. He was crucified, and he did what he didn't succumb to the devil's temptation, so obviously he refused evil and chose good, and he was back in heaven to plead on our behalf, where he is right now in the heavenly sanctuary. Now, there's another dilemma, and that is the prophecy can't be fulfilled unless everything is adding up. Now, so we restudy and we found out that Christ, although Christ is Emmanuel, his people are Emmanuel also. So it was really referring to Emmanuelites. So because it was not fulfilled with Emmanuel Christ, it must be fulfilled with Emmanuel, God with us, the Emmanuelites. You and I, the people who are living and are growing up in this time, feasting on the butter and honey that will enable us to refuse the evil and choose the good. So in that sense, the confederacy never happened, so it therefore must happen. Now, as it relates to Assyria and Babylon, we would have seen that Assyria, the English-speaking, Assyria is referring to the English-speaking Protestant nation that overthrew the papacy, the church-state confederacy of the Middle Ages. And so that shows us that this power that came about, that does that, is really repeating exactly what Assyria did, showing that this is modern Assyria. Because just as modern Babylon was on the stage first, and then Assyria came behind and overthrew them, the same way the papacy came on, and the Protestant nation came behind them, and through Martin Luther and the English-speaking nations backing Berthier, the Roman general, the papacy was overthrown in 1798. Hence, we have modern Babylon and modern Assyria. But we are not done with them yet, because modern Assyria would have to fall, because remember, modern Babylon came back and ruled for a long time. Modern Babylon will have to come back and rule for a long time too. As a matter of fact, not even long time of such, but have to come back and rule a great, vast, much more nations, the world in other words. So ancient Babylon ruled the world at the second go, or the second comeback. Modern Babylon will come back, because we know that this world will end really with Mystery Babylon during the time of the mark of the beast, that's the government church power that will be in leadership. So Babylon, so Assyria, then Babylon, then Babylon, then Assyria, then Babylon again. In the past, in the present and future is Babylon and Assyria, then Babylon again. All right? So that sort of brings us up with Babylon, with Assyria. So back to the study, and we are going to have to divide this. So, and he shall leave your name. We read that. The city is figurative of Judah and Israel, the church, in which are to be found 144,000 servants of God. Testimonies Minister 445. Those who are to be called by another name after the unworthy servants are slain. And as the 144,000 are the first fruits, Revelation 14, the harvest, the first fruits of the harvest, they are the escaped of Isaiah 66:19 and Ezekiel 9. This separation of the tares from the wheat in the church is to signalize the beginning of the final harvest of earth, the end of the world, right? So the separation in the church is signaling the final harvest. Then will have come the time for the denominational name to cease, for all her idols to be cut off, and for a new name to be given to those who escape. All this has to occur before Babylon is set up. As a matter of fact, before the kingdom. Then will these escaped ones proclaim God's glory and his fame to the Gentiles, and bring out of all nations, you see that now, all their brethren, all that will be saved, to the house of the Lord. This is saying that there will be a safe place in the promised land when the church will be purified during the war. During the war. That which happened to Jacob is sure to happen to us. And how comforting to know all these ahead of time. Now, if never before we should see that where there is a type, there is also an antitype, and that where there is no type, there is no truth, brothers and sisters, we have to follow. Is thus saith the Lord. Now, as we leave this phase of the typology, we enter that of Jacob's journey homeward. So we're going to pause here and pick up page 35, and that we will be looking at Jacob's journey homeward. I hope you learned something. Remember, make your comment. You can object to anything, drop us a line. Nevertheless, we want to learn from you. What's your thoughts? We'll definitely be picking up this again. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and may you keep the faith and strive to be among the 140 and 4,000. Can't be overemphasized, brothers and sisters, that the Lord wants us to study, to make effort to understand the prophetic word, because they are mostly for our time. God bless you. Thank you for stopping by.